Let's raise the big question then. Could this stampede have been eminently avoidable? Who will be held or who should be held accountable? Can the rail ministry and the rail minister indeed escape responsibility? These are questions that I will pose to people who've tracked crowd management and the railways. Lalit Chandra Trivedi is former GM Railways. Sudhanshu Mani is another former GM Railways. And Shashidhar Reddy, former Vice Chairman NDMA, is also joining us. Appreciate all of you joining us. I've listed those lapses out there in the story that we just carried, Mr. Mani. And each of those lapses seem to suggest that the authorities were either caught napping or unawares or made some glaring mistakes. Would that be a fair assessment? Because the general belief is to blame the people, that the people panicked. Is it the people who panicked in your view, or that the manner in which this was handled by the railway authorities on the ground leaves a lot to be desired?
Okay, first of all, my condolences to those who've lost their dear and dear ones. So in this cacophony of religious fervor for the holy day, certain half-truths demand to be examined. And those half which conceal the seeds of tragedy. In any crowd control scenario, a stampede-like situation is avoided by ensuring that movement of people is smooth, largely unidirectional, devoid of bottlenecks, and supported by robust barricading and adequate staffing of security personnel. So all these principles were not ensured. The railways claim that the platform number was not changed. Fair enough, but the last minute announcement of a special unreserved train on platform 12 or 16, whichever, while a massive crowd of unreserved passengers was already waiting on platform 14, is akin to that, triggering a chaotic crowd movement, cross movement, conflicting movement.
And so you're saying that announcement of a train, a Prayagraj special, in the already on a crowded station, was in your view a major lapse that triggered this. Am I correct?
Yes, because it is like changing the platform of that train. A lot of unreserved passengers on platform 14, unreserved. They don't have a reservation. They don't care which train. They just want to see it somehow. So they heard another train is going from platform 10, 12. They would rush to that platform from platform 14 where Prayagraj was to come. So, and there were other passengers coming onto platform 14 and 15. There was a conflicting movement, and this was created by that announcement. Having learned from earlier tragedies, this was something that was eminently avoidable, in my view.
You're saying eminently avoidable. Do you agree with that, Lalit Chandra Trivedi, former GM Railways? Because look at the ticket surge. The railway authorities were issuing approximately 1,500 general tickets per hour for Prayagraj, resulting already in more passengers having gathered there. As per Indian Express report, on an average, 7,000 tickets are booked at the New Delhi railway station between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. every day. But on this day, more than 9,600 general class tickets were booked in the same duration. So clearly there was no crowd assessment. There was this ticket search that was allowed. There's also, I believe, there was no access control. Passengers were allowed into the station premises from all entry points. It seemed this was a eminently avoidable tragedy.
Rajdeep, you see, first of all, this stampede-like situation is not restricted to Delhi alone. We were receiving reports of similar situation. All they did not result in such a calamity from Samastipur, from Patna, from so many other places. Now you see the things in perspective. Railway has run 3,134 special trains to handle Kumbh rush. One train carries at the max 1,500 people, if including the GS quota. So we were all hearing that 50 crore people were expected in Kumbh Mela. Now, even so, at least 20% or 5% will travel by train. So against the expected crowd of 5 to 10 crores, which were supposed to travel by train, railways arrangement were for 50 lakhs. That means even at the beginning, when they were making the planning, they thought that out of 50 crore people, only 50 lakh will travel by this special train. We all know that even after so much diversion of train traffic to road, the number of people who travel, they should have, and to add insult to injury, the 13,000 regular trains nowadays are they are devoid of second class. The earlier days we used to run Antyodaya Express, Sampurn Krant, Jan Sadharan, Sarv Sadharan Express. They used to consist of totally unreserved coaches. So of one train will come, it will clear 2,000 people. Today, a train like Vande Bharat, we have run about 7,500 of them. They don't have a single GS. You see the people in the train platform, they are all trying to get into the one at this end and one at the other end. There are only two general second class coaches in a train. So you are catering for 20% for 80% people.
So there is a clear demand supply issue as well here. Clearly the demand was outstripped the what the railways could provide or what they had actually planned for is what you're very, very clearly saying. All of this leads me to ask you, Shashidhar Reddy, because you're former Vice Chairman NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority. You've been a politician as well. Where does the buck stop? Where does the buck stop? Does it stop at a Railway Protection Force officials who were clearly outnumbered at the station? Will it stop at the general manager at the railway station level or the Northern Railways? Or should it go right to the very top?
Well, I think it's a very unfortunate incident. Many precious lives have been lost. Various reasons have been, you brought out various factors which has apparently contributed to this stampede. I think blame
Where does
game.
the buck stop, sir? Let me cut the chase. Where does the buck stop? Because in India, the buck is always passed. It never stops anywhere, seemingly.
This is not a thing for blame game. Yes, it is unfortunate. Things have gone wrong in some way. I think a thorough inquiry, because as a disaster management man, unfortunate as it is, as it may be, every disaster, it has to be a lesson learned. What went wrong and what could have been done differently is something that needs to be a part of the planning for future occasion nature. And I've always believed, and we came out with a large number of guidelines, that proper documentation is extremely important. Not just for apportionment of guilt or what went wrong. There are actions, sometimes success stories, there are sometimes failure stories
But you're saying don't play the blame game. Sudhanshu, Mani, that's the usual political responses. Let's get the railway minister out. There was a Lal Bahadur Shastri, of course, all those years ago who resigned as railway minister. But is the problem not with individuals? We don't have a full-time railway minister in the sense that Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav is also IT, information and broadcasting, also handles BJP's election campaigns. That's for the government of Mr. Narendra Modi to decide. But the truth of the matter is the railways now increasingly finding the pressure too much, in your view, of handling major events like the Kumbh Mela and providing for lakhs of people who want to go to the train. Is there a fundamental problem with the Indian Railways at the moment?
Well, the Bard said that the past is prologue, but the prologue can be prologue only if you are willing to treat it as one. Should have learned from past mistakes. Now look at this inquiry. They are calling it a high-level inquiry, but it's not an independent inquiry. Even if one life is lost in a rail accident, it is done by Commissioner of Railway Safety, who's not under the Rail Ministry. Here, it is being done perhaps by the people whose department themselves are to be blamed for this. So, the truth may come out or may not come out. But the way the inquiry committee has been ordered, I would have preferred an independent probe in this, so that not only we find what happened in this case, but also a path is set for future, and such incidents are not repeated.
As Sudhanshu Mani is pointing out, Mr. Trivedi, independent inquiry is the need for the hour. Will it get brushed under the carpet? Yes, a number of changes are being brought in after the incident. Many more CCTV cameras, many more personnel there to manage the crowd. We are always wise after the event in this country. Do you believe that inquiries do result in fixing of responsibility and accountability from your experience in the railways?
Rajdeep, whether they are able to fix the inquiry, if they are able to fix an individual or not, the fact remains railway is trying to sell a commodity which they don't have.
Which is
We,
what?
the general accommodation for unreserved classes. You have run 75 Vande Bharat Express. You have run an empty number of trains, and the percentage of people who really want to travel by train and who do not have any other means. A person who wants to travel by Vande Bharat can travel by air also. But a person who wants to travel by general second class, he has no means to go. He has, and his accommodation you have reduced to 10%. So now that mass, you may hold n number of inquiries. You may fix the person, but the fact remains. You are not catering for the general masses who really need the railways the most.
But that then comes to fundamentally, Sudhanshu, money to the way the railways are structured for the future. Already, I hear noises from those who say if the railways were privatized, this would not happen. There would be better planning. Is that the real argument, or is it now an argument at the end of the day of how the railway sees the vision for its future? Who is the Indian Railways going to cater for? The Aam Aadmi or the Vande Bharat Khas Aadmi?
No, in my view, both are possible. From the Khas Aadmi, you can make more money and use that money to better the lot of the common people. But the trains for common men, as Mr. Trivedi pointed out, their space in trains is depleting. You have to take care of the common men. There has been more ordering of coaches and so on, but I don't see a conflict. Both can be done, but more trains, more number of coaches per train has to be done for common people, for migrant labor, such people who have the only means to travel by train, has to be done with more empathy. There's no doubt about that.
Okay, let me leave it there. Shashida Reddy, you want to get in a final point from a disaster management point of view? Do you believe there is enough emphasis on crowd control measures at major events like this? Look, there have been a lot of successes also at the Mahakumbh. Let's not undermine that of the government. But when a stampede takes place, surely you expect accountability to be fixed for an avoidable tragedy like this?
Yeah, I think one of the points made now is for unreserved passengers. One big lesson to be learned from this is that you need to provide more facility for unreserved passengers, maybe run more trains with just unreserved, like a special train that was scheduled to take off. I think these are lessons to be learned. It is very unfortunate. And then we have another 8-9 days left for this, and let us hope that things are taken care in a better way so that such incidents...
Yeah, but as always in this country, it sadly requires a tragedy for us to wake up to some of these realities. I think some few good points being made here about the need to look at unreserved compartments and the pressure that the railways finds itself at the moment, and the mismatch that exists between the vision that the railways has and the reality on the ground. I appreciate my guests joining us. Hopefully there are those in government listening to what these experts have said. While our thoughts and prayers are with the families who've lost their loved ones, it is important to demand accountability for the lapses that led to the stampede. Sadly, in most such tragedies, the inquiry reports are just swept under the carpet. It's almost as if human life doesn't matter if the victims are poor, anonymous citizens. Now, if you wish to take credit for organizing a Mahakumbh on a grand scale, then please be prepared to face the flak when things go wrong. Let me add, any attempt to cover up or pass the buck in a stampede is a crime. Let me say that again, crime, crime to pass the buck. Wholly insensitive as well. I said this during COVID, and I will say it again. Good governance ultimately is about accountability to we the citizens, not about passing the buck in typical Netagiri fashion. Think about it.